I would like to begin this episode by thanking Zeta Fox, Jeff Sweet, Matt Walker, Adam Alla, and Amory. All of these are people who have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and supported us. You can get lots of cool stuff by going there, bonus shows, access to our Slack team, early access to our shows, all that good stuff. We think it's worth it. But yeah, thank you. Patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Riven, which is
is not the sequel to Myst. Oh, fuck.
It is.
It one thing, I did it wrong. Damn it.
They wanted to make sure you knew that.
How did I miss that? It's everywhere.
Stupid. This week we're talking about Riven, which is a first-person adventure game developed by Cyan and published by Red Orb Entertainment, a subsidiary of Broderbund, for the PC in 1997.
And it is the sequel to Myst.
It is a direct sequel.
There we go.
Yes.
Got it right. Got it too. This episode was executive produced by Dr. Bois. So thank you, Dr. Bois.
Thank you, Dr. Bois. I've been trying to get this on the schedule for 10 years. So,
yep, and my price was paid. That's not true. I was happy to play this as a good game.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm a real Myst head. I'm a real.
You're a pig in shit.
I'm a freak for the Denis. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a certified Denis freak. 7 days a week.
So 5 days a week. 5 plus 2 days per week. Yes.
Yeah, 5 ages a week. I'm a certified Denis freak.
Yeah. But this is a direct sequel to Myst. You start out kind of right where you left off with Atris on the island of Kavir in the city of Denis. You are playing as the stranger, aka yourself, and you're working with Atris to rescue his wife Catherine from the dying island age of Riven, which is ruled over by Atris's power-mad father, Gen.
Yeah. And there's a cosmology to the series. Generally, Myst is about this legacy race of people who look just like us, except they're called the Denis. And they learn this ability, this art, where they write books, and by writing a book, they create a place or discover a place. There are philosophical differences as to what's happening there, and then they can link them to go to these different worlds called ages.
Yes.
So it is kind of, as you write it, you change the reality.
Yeah.
As it is experienced.
Descriptive books, linking books, all of these things. The mechanics of how you get from one place to another are really important. Because ages can be prisons and stuff like that. And you're going to have to figure all of that out on the way. On the way here, you're exploring the Age of Riven from first person, plays pretty much exactly like the original Myst. You are shifting between these pre-rendered scenes to go around the environment, turning around and advancing, zooming in on particular things, kind of like a slideshow. And you are trying to manipulate these mechanisms and kind of learn about these cultures in order to solve puzzles and accomplish your goals.
Yeah, it is. Go back to the second episode of this show.
Yes.
And the audio quality is terrible. But if you do, we talk about this. This is a hypercard stack. game. So a series of individual scenes. When it's animated, it's playing a video for you. Nothing animates that you control in this.
Right.
Unlike the original Myst, you're not going to these individual ages that are a hub that have self-contained puzzles. Instead, you spend most of your time on Riven's 5 islands, kind of doing one big omnipuzzle.
Yeah.
Or a couple big omnipuzzles. It has that Outer Wilds feeling to it where it is, going from place to place, getting clues and then using them in different spots.
Yeah.
This used to be a prosecutable crime for the creators of this, because the way they decided to make the 5-disc version of this on CDs was every island was a disc. And it's not like you go to an island and then complete the island and then leave the island.
Sometimes you're just passing through.
A lot of times you're just passing through, and just a lot of load time. That, I did not play this like that. And that's probably a big reason.
Yeah.
Why? I was like, that's
it's really intimidating. I initially played this on the PlayStation on the PlayStation on the original PlayStation, and it ships in a massive case. It's even, if you think it's bad on PC, wait until you have to get up and walk up to your television every time you need to switch as well.
Yeah. That's rough stuff. Luckily this is obviated entirely. I play this from the comfort of the supercomputer I carry in my pocket, because we live in the future now, I can attest it is a good port.
Yeah.
So if you would like to play this, which I recommend, it's a cool game. It's $4 and you can play it on your phone.
Yep. Yeah. Or you can get it on Steam or any other digital storefront. It was just recently re-released as part of a big reacquisition that Cyan did of all their games from Ubisoft. So you can get a hold of it. This really hasn't been a problem since like 2002, when they did a reissue of the entire series on DVD as well. Yeah. Like, this game was like 3 years too early, much in the same way that Myst sold CD drives. This would have sold DVD drives if they were commercially available at the time. Yeah.
Or cool PC trunk-based disc changers.
Yup.
Each island has its own purpose here, and you basically walk around using context clues and very lengthy diaries.
Yeah.
Giving Remnant from the Ashes a run for its money. To figure out Gen's characterization, what's going on with this world, what the culture of this world is, and how to reactivate this machinery that is blocking your forward progress.
Yes. What I would say is the difference, yes, the diaries are very lengthy. They're also rich with clues. Like, there are diagrams and things like that. Like, it is not just flavor that you are getting. You're actually figuring out quite a bit by paying attention to those.
Yeah, it's not just flavor. I don't like the pacing of how long those are when they pop up.
Yeah, they could have broken them out into a couple more.
I would have liked that a little bit better, because there's just kind of a, like, you sit down and now it's time to read a novella.
Yeah.
Here. And it's weird. Like, I was trying to, this is a question that I was wrestling with in coming up to this, and it's kind of summation level, but I was just like, is this a well-written game? Like, the world building is good, but do I think that the dialogue and, kind of the actual story of what's happening outside of just the concepts that come with Myst, do I think that's a good story? And I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of weird kind of like dead ends, like probably things that were tackled in novels or sequels, but like Catherine feels weirdly like a dead end in this to me. There's a lot of like hinting that she's up to no good, which came from her earlier draft, is my understanding, when she was a villain and stuff. And I have a weird feeling about the writing in this, like the world building, lore, very good. Performances, generally pretty good. It's hard for me to say the story of Riven is very good, because there's so little story there.
Yeah.
And I felt that a lot in the diary entries, where I was like, yeah, this there's a weird element to this that feels almost like amateurish to me. And it kind of is, it's not that these guys hadn't made a game before, but it is, this is an auteur product.
Yeah.
It's these dudes. So just a weird feeling I came away from it.
Yeah.
Like, as a question.
I mean, I'll throw it on this. I mean, like, this is the game that made me fall in love with this world. It kind of hit me at exactly the right time. I think that the story in this is very good. specifically because it focuses around Gen, and like really demonstrates the ways in which he is a shit and a Denis supremacist and what that means.
Yeah, Gen is an absolute monster. Like he is a well-observed shithead.
And everything with Catherine, I think that is a well-placed red herring, as you kind of like learn about this resistance. But like that diary that you get to, I mean, obviously there are spoilers. You just stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. But the diary that you get to where she comes back to her homeworld and is incredibly alienated from them because they think she is a god. I think that is really good, and the way that this resistance pops up in opposition to what Gen is doing, all of that works for me very, very well. And you have to pay attention to that to, kind of figure out, do I trust Gen or do I not? Do I let Catherine out? Do I not? Obviously there's one golden ending where you get this stuff, but like you can make your own call on those individual things and get an ending that is, related to that. Gen will betray you. You do want to get Catherine out because she is, doing good things, but yeah, that's that is left to you to discover.
I think it's maybe just it sells it a little hard. Like to me, I did not feel at any point that Gen was redeemable or had any doubt at all.
Right.
And I did not feel at any point that Catherine was anything less than like super good. Mm-hmm. From any of the things that I had read. From the game. So it felt like they were trying to add shade, but once I learned that was from a leftover draft, that at one point they had experimented with having Catherine be the villain, it just made tons of sense to me. Like it had the feeling of vestigial writing.
Yeah.
To me in a weird way that they kind of repurposed into a red herring. Like I'm not trying to nitpick your house, come into your house and take a shit on the floor or nothing. Like I like this game. I think it is neat. Yeah. It's just like, there were parts of it that felt off in that aspect specifically to me. I admire that it is up to you to kind of piecemeal decide what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And to me, the quote unquote golden ending felt very obvious, but looking up online and seeing all the different variations of what happens if you decide not to was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that they planned for all those contingencies.
Contingencies or outright mistakes you could make if you do not understand, what is happening when you touch the panel in that book. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The three goals you have that, again, you can accomplish them, any or, none or all of them, is to capture Gen in the special prison book you're given, free Catherine from her prison, and then signal to Atris to come into the age and take you back. Take Catherine back to the Denis and hopefully get you back home.
Yeah. To do this, there are two large meta puzzles that you're going to spend, most of the game gathering clues for. Just there are points where you go in and just input what you have seen. Stranger, one of which involves observing local wildlife and searching for imagery of them in the scenery. The other of which involves tracking the physical locations of these various domes around the islands, and pinning their location to grids based on imaging mechanisms that you find on one of the islands.
Yeah, I hated that pegboard thing too.
Yeah.
Was my other major nitpick of like the puzzles I found at the end of this, I found very annoying. I found that puzzle very annoying.
Yeah.
The stuff before that though is cool. I just was like, man, I just want to be done with it. Like I had a very intense like fight or flight, like get this fucking panel off my screen. Like I would flip this in real life.
Yeah, it is notorious. They call it the waffle maker from hell is what the fans call it. We'll talk about it when we get there, but the possible solutions to it, if you don't rule out one of the colors that doesn't exist in the Denis, their color notation, it's in the trillions, is the possible the possible inputs. It feels like a big overcorrection on their part from the original Myst.
We just had to assume everybody on Earth is going to play this 100 times. We need to make sure nobody stumbles upon it. It also is pretty colorblind unfriendly.
Yes,
the game in general. it's worth saying. Like, it took me a while to figure out what I was missing, and then looked online and saw that I was even supposed to be paying attention to colors.
Yeah.
When they were using gold and or yellow and green that look very similar to me. And that was a huge bummer. So there
Yeah.
were some of these things in the end, specifically that waffle iron grid, where I understood the concept of it, but trying to positionally relate, like, okay, the peg that's in this space, the internet tells me it's this color. So I just need to remember that
Which of these is this culture?
color.
Yes.
Yeah, I got mad and stopped. And that's, it's 1997. I don't really blame the developers for using that, but just know if you're going to this colorblind, it's pretty colorblind unfriendly.
Yeah, aggressively so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're also going to be learning the Denis numbering system. Not the written language, although you could if you have the software for this. There is Denis writing around here. It's not until later, Myst 4, you need to learn a little bit of like what syllables, what phonemes are associated with Denis characters. So, yeah.
But you have to intuit the language here. This is a note game. I took a lot of notes while doing this, which was, it made me wish I was not playing on my phone.
Yeah.
Just because the convenience of that was it being on the go. But you wanted to basically write down everything.
Yeah.
You can always go back, but it's kind of a pain to do so. You'll save yourself a lot of trips by taking copious notes.
Yes. Yeah. And you might not be aware, you do need to, spend a little bit of time figuring out what frequency the game wants you to be on in regards to which notes. It can be either a cool aha moment that some of the sounds you're hearing are calls from animals, but it can also be frustrating because, like, fuck, man, how do I write down this particular kind of groan that I heard?
Yeah, like, caw, caw. Yeah. Let it.
Yeah. They would step on that rake again in Myst 4 Revelations, one of the worst titled games I've seen. But
Myst 4 Revelations, the sequel to Myst 3. Exile.
Mystery Exile works. Myst 3 is good. But yeah, you're going to be taking notes here. A tip on getting around. Some of the transition animations are pretty cool, but they're also really long. Like, I don't have to watch that maglev train turn around again. So if you press the escape key, you will skip past them, which is a good way to go and zip around the islands.
Yeah, in iOS, it's just a button on the screen. Yeah, so you can make it quicker. Even though it is fairly big, it still takes a while to like circumnavigate. And if you're skipping animations, for this. So you want, if you're able to be efficient by taking notes, you want to do that. You have an inventory, but you don't use it to solve puzzles. This isn't that kind of adventure game. This is a place for diaries. You can review them.
Yes. Yeah. And diaries, like we said, have diagrams. They have, the color and number notations that'll help you decode things. You are going to be referencing these. A large departure from the original Myst, which is a beautiful void. The isolation of the original Myst as its own kind of horror, right? Here in Riven, there are other people. The islands are inhabited. You're going to see either Gen's guards off in the distance. You're going to see villagers. You're going to see the resistance. Most of them are terrified of you. But it is a very distinct feeling. I have a recollection of it being very unsettling and just kind of putting me on edge when I walked onto a screen and there was just a person there. And additionally, there are actors in this. It is not just Rand and Robin Miller hamming it up. Rand Miller is still there playing Atris, but you have like actors who will speak to you. You spend time with Gen. Jonathan Keston, I think, is the actor's name. You have Catherine, occasionally as well. Yeah, so this is a lot less lonely.
Yeah, and you can see why, the making of kind of little documentary that came with this that you can watch on YouTube talks about how difficult this was. Yeah. To integrate the people into their CG backgrounds using blue screen. So, they're rightly proud of it. Like, it looks pretty good. Yes. Also just, because it's been several hundred episodes since we did Myst, I'm going to repeat Brayden Cameron's very funny idea. Okay. Which was to make a Myst clone. And on the cover, you put like a big demon guy like Jack Spikes or something. And you go through it's just Myst. Like you go through the whole game and you never run into him, but you spend the whole time because it's all lonely. Because you think that there's going to be the demon there because that's how these games work in terms of being scary. And then you do a sequel and it says, "Guess who's back?" With the same picture of the demon like on the front.
That's really good.
Brayden Cameron is a very funny man.
He's a very funny man. I'm happy to know him.
Sartorial as well. Good acting, good loneliness with good startle moments. Like there's a part where a little girl pops out that is like, "Oh shit!" Like I just didn't expect it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. It has that BioShock 1 thing where you're not really interacting directly with any people.
Right.
They're always kind of behind screens or you're behind a jail cell or something. Because they don't, it's terrified that you'll click on a person.
Yeah.
It doesn't know what'll happen. Like those organs will open up and you'll start rearranging them or something. But it is still interesting to see the world have people in it.
Yeah. And that world is really beautiful. Like this game looks fantastic in a way that Myst does not. For technical reasons that we can get into when we talk about kind of the making of this. I still think this game is fucking gorgeous. Low res, yes, but like the visual design of it is striking, and the fact that everything is pre-rendered, yes, it does kind of bring a bit of a stillness and a distance to it. But I think that is complementary to what you're doing here. It is a distinct aesthetic that is also helped along by this really haunting atmospheric music that leans really heavily on leitmotif.
Yeah, I didn't want to have like real Riven, where like I was walking around. Like I like the still scenes.
Yes,
and I like how it looks now. This tyrant, in the story here, there is more plot. Yeah. For sure. It's not just like, here are Idris's weird adult sons, like deal with them. Gen is a really, really well-observed character, and he does the thing where you get to see his works before you meet him, and kind of put together the clues of what kind of society he's kind of created here. And that is really satisfying.
Yeah.
You have in the notes here that it's got Dark Souls DNA to it, and that's true. Like that part does feel like Dark Soulsian. Like, this is what these people lived like up until some asshole happened.
This is why I'm seeing, just all of a sudden in this particular area, this sculpture pop up. What is this machine for? Oh, it's actually for something really horrifying. Stuff like that. I said this on Twitter, but I will repeat it here. I can draw a direct line from falling in love with this game to falling in love with Dark Souls. It plays on a lot of similar buttons for me personally, in the way that it delivers its story. I think it is chef kiss.
In terms of like the theoretical From Software Dark Souls game we've talked about with like little combat that's just about exploring the worlds, it wouldn't be that different than this.
Right.
The aesthetics would be different.
Yeah.
Like Riven has its own specific kind of thing. Like
Victorian
I think still
mixed with island stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think I would still prefer spooky castles and all the statues are missing their right leg, like scariness.
Yeah.
But more than I would prefer this. But I can see that the DNA for sure.
Yeah.
And the most effective piece of storytelling in this for me was figuring out all Gen's shitheadery and then meeting him and having him try to gaslight you out of it.
Yep.
Was the most effective piece of characterization work in this.
I love that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good moment.
I've changed, baby.
Yeah. What Idris did here to these people is horrible to them. Excuse me? Yeah.
Sir?
Yeah.
Look what Idris made me do.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
This is like abuse month, like between Losa and the demon, and how Ratchet treats Clank. Like it's total abuse month, man.
Oh no.
This began development shortly after the completion of Myst, under the title of Myst 2. They thought it was a little too unclear as to whether it told you whether it was the sequel to Myst. Yeah. So they had to change it.
Yeah. For a while, the working title was Equikey.
Yeah.
spelled like Equa, and then key, like, this sailing, the dock kind of thing. I'm happy that they didn't do it because Ekike is another way to say that.
Yeah. You can't have two QUs in a word and have it sound cool.
No. Riven is a much better name. Not only because it plays into the 5 motif, but also because it's a description of what's happening to the island. It is a much more satisfying symbolic title than Equikey. Blah.
As mentioned before, there was a draft early on where Catherine was the villain. She's just an offhand character in the first game, but they were going to have her be the main villain. And there are, again, they kind of pivoted this into some gaslighting.
Yeah.
Robin Miller was the lead designer of the world and its puzzles, along with this new team member, Richard Vanderwend, who is this former animation supervisor at Disney and really shook things up, according to the documentary.
He was the, according to the documentary. There's a long form article that was written in Wired, contemporaneous with the release of the game, that is pretty good. That also kind of describes that he, came in to bring a little bit of edge to things. And he also didn't fit in because both of the Miller brothers are evangelical Christians and he is not. So that also caused a little bit of a little bit of conflict between them. It's a good article because it talks about the actual just physical working relationship that they had and kind of the drama that went in between, especially the brothers. This game very nearly, one of them even says we would have had to get divorced as brothers if things worked out a different way. But they brought in Vanderwend.
Brother divorce.
Yeah, brother divorce. They brought in Vanderwend. He had worked on Aladdin. He was a good asset for the animation and stuff like this, stuff like that. They worked on the puzzles first before they laid out the world because they wanted to integrate them into the scenery, much more so than they ended up being able to do in Myst. And that is definitely a strength, probably even to a fault, as things are very well hidden within the scenery itself.
Yeah, fewer you go to a panel.
Yes.
Which is probably part of why the pegboard was so frustrating to me, because I'm at a panel, puzzle panel.
Yeah.
Story was developed at the same time they did the puzzles. The Millers worked with an author named David Wingrove to write Myst novels, 2 prequels to this and a sequel, which Cole Ross has read.
I have. They're good as far as young adult novels go. I like them. I didn't read them until well after I played the Myst series, but I think that they're good. Especially, I like the third one a lot because it kind of goes into in the past, the Denis people kind of schismed off of a group of people, and they find this sealed age to go and meet them, this other potential branch of the way the Denis could have gone. And you see that what they end up doing is, they live in paradise because they use the ages basically as colonial holdings. And they harvest thousands upon thousands of slaves and strip mine all of the resources so that they can live in luxury with a slave caste that they don't even acknowledge visually. They never look at them. They're so indoctrinated that they do not see that these people are walking around. It's good. It shows exactly what could happen with this kind of power.
Yeah, there is some colonial theming,
yes,
in this game as well, with how Gun, with what Atros made Gun do to these people.
Yep. Yeah. Those books are not masterpieces by any stretch. The first one is a little bit too Star Warsy as you grow up with Atros, but it is a direct sequel or a direct prequel to the Myst, the original Myst. And it's also chronologically, because it came out in 1995, the first time you would meet Gen and learn that he's a bastard, or learn how Atros met Catherine and had these kids. The middle one, the Book of Tiana, actually dwells on the downfall of the Denis people on Earth, and the way that she, inadvertently, Gen blames it on her, but she was involved in what led to all of the Denis dying.
Yeah. Well, rip to the Denis.
Yeah, but we're different. Up here on the surface.
Yep, doing good. The original Myst had this very small team, developed entirely in Rand Miller's garage. The second game, they started in the garage. Their scenes, they're shots in the documentary of them crouched over in this garage. Just looks like an absolute fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
Until they eventually expanded the project, renting some office space and then building an office.
Yeah.
And expanding the team because the project just kept expanding in scope. It's hard to understate how big of a hit Myst was. So they had money to kind of just realize whatever their vision was. And this budget of this game was 10 times what it cost to develop Myst.
Yes.
With that kind of just not scope creep, because they did what they wanted to do, but they set out to make something much bigger in scope.
Yeah. The budget is 10 times what it is, and you can see it. A lot of it is on the screen. Yeah. The original Myst, I mean, we talked about it in the initial episode, episode 2, talking about the first game, but it was the biggest selling PC game of all time up until The Sims came out, right? Like it supplanted Doom and then just ran away. And Cyan, they had all of this money. They didn't need to take an advance from Broderbund. Broderbund was like, yeah, we'll publish it. It's a great thing. We'll do that again. But like, no, we're not going to take an advance because we don't want you to dictate terms to us. So they had all of this leeway when it came to scope and timeline because they were just working off of Myst money that was coming in.
Yeah. Yep. However, they did miss the Christmas 1996 window. So Broderbund's stock tanked.
Yep.
Rip to Broderbund, but I'm different. As we mentioned, there is that additional budget that went into this additional scope. And this means it's much more visually intricate. There is this emphasis on texture detail in the animation, so things look significantly more real.
Yeah.
The team spent a few days around Santa Fe, New Mexico, just taking pictures of adobes and shit to plaster onto their game, and it worked.
Yeah.
All of these textures are from real buildings, and it shows.
And if you go back and compare the original Myst, you can see that the textures are all very aggressively tiled. I think that is a charming look. It feels a little bit like, just a VHS that you would get that just called like CGI Dreams or whatever. That that would be like harvested for vaporwave stuff later. I like that. This, however, is like beautiful and looks real in its way. It is a good, it was a good use of their resources to do that.
Well, it's interesting how it in the first one, which I also really like, that the feeling of the first Myst and the look of it. Here, things do kind of blend in.
Yeah.
You talked about that a little bit earlier, but that visual fidelity does have a little bit of a price. About halfway through the playing, I turned on the feature on the iOS version that was just like highlight interactable stuff.
Oh, that's a really good feature to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's just like, what is the point of hiding this? Like, and they weren't doing it on purpose. It was in service of making it look good.
Yeah.
But that's something that it was a weird knock-on effect of the lo-fi version of Myst, where like something that you were meant to interact with clearly stood out.
Yeah. Because it often stood out from anything else in the geometry.
Yeah. And it was just a puzzle panel, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Here, I ended up having to use that feature, and I don't regret it. Even if that did like spoil my immersion a little bit or whatever. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I have limited life days on this planet.
For sure. And the fact that you were playing it on the phone, it was really canny. It was like a really good decision that they put that there. Because if you're playing this on a computer with a mouse, you are mousing over objects and seeing the cursor change as it hovers over things. So that's how you determine that something is interactable. So like
Seventh Gust.
Yeah. So you're feeling, you're feeling for buttons and seeing like, the way you would be feeling for buttons on a surface if you were actually in this space. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot more animation, as we mentioned.
Yes.
So live action performances, this was all basically new to them, even though there were mild live action little windows in Myst 1.
Yes.
There's significantly more here.
Yeah. They had to do, very intricate green screen or blue screen chroma key kind of stuff, like building sets, doing almost like a Nick Arcade kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nick Arcade presents Myst. Hey, kids, don't starve. When talking about the kind of difficulty of this and the complexity, Rand Miller says that during development, the two most common complaints about Myst are that it's too easy and that it's too hard, which is a hard thing to design for.
Yeah. What am I supposed to do with this information, guys?
So what they did was they made this game super fucking hard.
Yeah.
I think this is really difficult.
Yeah.
I leaned on universal hint system with some frequency.
There's no shame in that.
This.
There's no shame in that at all.
Yeah. Well, I'm beyond shame for such things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine feeling shame about how you play a video game.
True. I'm not saying that so much for you, but anybody who might be listening, if they're like, oh, these guys are talking this game up, I want to go and take a look at it. Nobody should feel bad about using Universal Hint System for what is considered to be one of the best, but also the most difficult of these first person adventure games of this era. Right.
Yeah. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I found, and sometimes it for some of the big puzzles, again, like it hit the right spot for me. Like the animal stuff all worked pretty well. The number stuff pretty good. The grid thing can suck my dick. And then so it was this weird, and part of that was also color related.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, just to make this all about me and my dumb eyes.
I like the grid thing. I'm an apologist for it, but like I also understand why it is a tough putt. Not even just for color blindness reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you did just the classic over corrections, especially, you see this in sophomore projects, right? But Robin Miller, later on, I think this was like at a Myst fan convention like in 2020 or something, but he said he was really disappointed because if you read about Robin Miller, he's kind of somebody who talks a lot about like, I want to create worlds. Like it is a very like mid 90s working in tech and interactive, CD-ROMs kind of thing.
Well, the game is kind of about that.
Yeah.
Like the whole concept of these books and stuff. Like there's a very specific kind of 90s bearded dork that these games embody. And it's the people who made them.
Yeah.
Like if you look at them, it's like, oh, it's that guy.
Oh yeah, it's that guy. Yeah. But yeah, Robin Miller said like, I wanted to create these worlds. And I feel like by making this one so difficult, I failed in doing that because I put up a lot of blocks for people who, just wanted to kind of get around and look at it. So
yeah,
there's a balance to hit for sure. I think that the world design and the puzzles work together very well in this. I am not put off by the difficulty.
Yeah, I think they work together well as well. I think it might just be an issue of different limits for appetite.
Yeah.
For it, and how something with this games of this vintage, specifically puzzle games, is like there's a DNA aspect that's like the joy of getting stuck.
Yeah,
like you read about old adventure game culture, or you watch that text adventure documentary, and people talk about like, oh man, it's like the best feeling in the world to like be totally stuck and then take a couple days off the game and then come back and see it with fresh eyes. And it just feels so good, and for me, like, chalk it up to whatever you want. Like it could be the fact that I'm playing this for work and I put in 110 hours in Divinity Original Sin 2 or whatever. And I had less time to work on this than maybe I would. But I feel like even back in the day, I was never that kid.
Yeah.
I much prefer like the Thimbleweed Park approach of like, there just being a hint line. If you want to take it, like keep me moving.
Yeah.
I want to keep moving.
There's also, an audience that is not us, who are both probably on the, further on the spectrum towards preferring, difficulty, grit, let's say, mechanical kind of interest. One of the reasons why Myst, the original one, sold so well, was for people who are not us, who wanted to have this pretty slideshow, to move around. Right. Here is 3D. I have no idea what it means for something to be pre-rendered or not. All I know is my computer is showing me something interesting and I want to go around and see how the stuff goes. There's a whole audience of people who bought Myst, never got off of the initial Myst island because they didn't figure out the clue tower or what have you. And they were happy with it because it was a part of getting a new computer. Like it felt very futuristic. And, that is a market that is underserved by Riven, even though there is more kind of geography that you can get to in Riven than in Myst without solving puzzles, It is still locking you out of a good amount of stuff because of the intricate things that it is demanding of you, even just observationally, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it ends up being a weird kind of thing where like there are also people for whom this is the audience for who like this kind of puzzle fuck is nothing. You know, no, I'm not saying you like you're this is an appropriate difficulty, but there are people for whom this is their all-consuming purpose. You know, I'm thinking like specifically like our buddy Riff.
Yeah,
who it's not his all-consuming purpose, but like the harder the better.
No, like around this time they would have been playing like A Fool's Errand or A Fool and His Money. You know, something like the pure uncut shit, right?
Yeah. And just and again turning it back to me because I'm me and I talk about me a lot. I'm just like I'm neither of those guys. You know, I'm not the guy who wants to look around and just kind of be in the space. I'm also not the guy who wants, puzzle fuck me harder, daddy hurt me more. You know, I want to keep moving at a steady pace.
Yeah.
Through the game. And this game interrupted that a little bit where it ended up being like out of the Riven likes we've done this year, which is surprisingly many. This ended up being my least favorite while still being good. Like, I think I like the Outer Wilds and I think I like Obra more than that. Even, and they're pretty similar.
Yeah.
Obra probably has the least in common with it. This probably has more in common with Outer Wilds. But it ends up being like, but it came out in 97.
Yeah.
Like it walks
like
so those could run. Like I don't hold that against it, but purely in a like playing in 2021 expression of it. Like,
which is
I kind of like those a little bit more.
That's a part of how we evaluate these things too, and I think that like putting all of these together, like, it's a lot. It's a lot of cool stuff, in quick succession, but also, it's a nice little history lesson too, seeing how later indie stuff is informed, by this initial masterwork, which is such a heavy lift from like a manpower perspective, right? And was writing its own rules, in a time before this genre would just kind of go away because it was oversaturated by people who didn't do things as cannily as Cyan did.
Yeah. And it's not entirely cool stuff. Like I fucking loved Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of Gary in this. It's just kind of like the uncut original version of it is a little bit tougher. Like I need some processing and some like melted American cheese on top. For it. We have another big puzzle game coming up that we haven't announced yet that is very different than all of these. And I'm really excited to go into that because it's kind of the polar opposite of this. Yeah, in a lot of ways. And I'm excited. Yeah. And it's not Baba Is You, which somebody guessed.
Somebody did guess that. Yeah. It is closer in the vein to Outer Wilds in this.
Yes.
Yeah. So the production on this was a long and difficult process for the team. As we mentioned, it put a huge strain on the relationship between Rand and Robin Miller. Robin Miller kind of being the more creative, spacey one who, would go off and do kind of the thankless task of of doing the art direction. For a lot of this, like a lot of the detail work, whereas Rand was more broad strokes and like production, logistics kind of stuff, writing, things like that. Robin Miller would depart from Cyan immediately after the release of Riven. He would go off to do mostly like film work, like indie film stuff.
Yeah. Well, he did the soundtrack as well, right?
Yeah, he did the music for this.
Yeah, which is good. The larger team working on this kind of graphical and technical elements of the game had to be shipped to work in Spokane, Washington, which is a big culture shock for the ones who are used to LA or San Francisco.
Yeah.
The Pacific Northwest, the place for old adventure games.
Right.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah. Spokane, Washington being like basically on like that's right on the border with Idaho. Like it's extremely rural, far eastern Washington, right? Yeah. Yep. But yeah, that's where they had their studio set up, and I believe that they're still out there today. Yeah. Riven was extremely well received. It outsold expectations. It got a ton of awards. And Myst fans consider it to be the best in the series, which is, I mean, when you look at what came before, with its relative simplicity compared to this being more Swiss watch like, and then what came after, which is, you know, there are things to like about Myst 3. Some
Uru, everybody. Uru.
It's hard to dispute that this is a high watermark given what else is available in the series. Like Myst 4 is something that only something only a mother could love, you know. Yeah, by which I mean somebody who's been a fan of it for forever. Myst 5 is good, but Uru is not good.
Cyan has given their blessing to different fans to make a remake. It's called the Starry Expanse Project, and this is to do real Riven. And for people who don't know what real Myst is, instead of slideshows, you actually just walk around it.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is animated.
Yeah. After this, with Robin's departure, Rand would go on and continue development in the Myst series by working on Uru Ages Beyond Myst, which was which is a real kind of high concept. Just like, you know, there are people who say that the worst thing about Myst is that it ends. What do we give them? This persistent online Myst experience where new ages were constantly coming out, and they could work with other people to solve these much harder puzzles. Uru failed because it is not fun to play. And they ended up kind of releasing all of the planned online expansion content as just single player expansions. It's not great. And Ubisoft went and shipped out the development for Myst 3 and 4 to different studios.
Yeah. They came back for Myst 5, End of Ages, and then went back to independent publishing, put out Abduction in 2016, which I've not played, but by all accounts is very good.
It is.
And then they're working on Firmament, which is under development.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that one, too. Cyan does good work.
So we're going to get into it here. It is a weird game to talk about on the show because you kind of complete it in passes. You know, like you kind of check everything out and then you kind of slowly put things together. And people will put things together in different orders and come to different revelations.
Yeah.
In
Myst 4
orders.
revelations.
Yes. Uru, Ages of Myst. So the first part will be kind of just talking about the islands, like checking out what's available. And then once we have the pieces, we'll talk about the puzzles and what happens in the order that Cole did because he took notes.
Yes.
So it's slightly different than mine, and I'll call out some differences when we get to them if they're important.
Yeah.
But just know that this won't necessarily be your path through the game. Also, you know, if this game sounds fun to you, I think you should play it.
Yes.
We're going to spoil these puzzles. I think that if you're like an Outer Wilds kid, you're one of these people who like went nuts over that game. I think you'd find a lot to like here.
Agreed.
In terms of its general structure.
Yeah. So we open up on the scene where we ended the original Myst. We have Atris scribbling furiously into a book that we're going to learn is the descriptive book for Riven. And he's talking to you kind of elliptically about the task that he has for you. He says, hey, here's this journal that has more information that you will need. I can't really explain it to you because I'm too busy trying to hold this world together. But he gives you the journal. He gives you the prison book to use on Gen. And he explains, you know, for reasons that you're going to discover, I cannot send you with the linking book back here to Denis.
Yeah. We should say what a descriptive book is.
Yes.
Just because that's some deep Myst lore. The descriptive book is the one that you're writing that you write that there's a mountain and there's a mountain. Linking books are able to have less detail.
Yes.
In them, and they're like pamphlets that use the teleport almost. The descriptive book though is the one that's doing the world. So what he's literally doing is trying to repair this world in real time. Yeah. By correcting mistakes in writing.
Because we're gonna find out Gen fucking sucks at doing this.
He was taught himself.
Yeah, Yeah, like
You know?
he was
Better than I could do.
he was a member of the guild for a while. He just has a very lazy approach to the way that he does things. He's a real copy paste script kitty.
Yeah.
He is leaning on the fact that he is that he has Denis blood to kind of paper over, like, yes, I am making these correct decisions based on my assumptions about this culture that fell when I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No respect.
I do not respect Gen. Atris is a much better writer.
Atris is weirdly saintly in these.
Yes.
These games. You are very much meant to respect Atris in this. It's a very, very funny performance to me. Like, it's good, but it's also just very like Obi-Wan.
Yes. Very, very Obi-Wan-esque. And, they're big Star Wars fans, as you would be if you were making computer games in the 90s.
Christian.
Yeah.
So our goal is we have to trap Gen using this book. We have to find Catherine, stop finding my wife, and signal Atris from within the world to come get you. And he hints, he's like, not only will I be able to come get you and bring you back here, I might be able to get you back to the world you came from.
Yes.
And he sends you to Riven, and unfortunately you emerge in a cage.
Yeah.
Gen has planned for this.
Mm-hmm. Gen knows where people will link in. And he has kept this trap set up, just in case anybody would come to, even scope him out. He needs to make sure that he can capture you. So the cage closes on you, and there's a guard. There's a man in a soldier's uniform who does not speak English. He has difficulty communicating with you. The language that the natives speak is kind of a pidgin. It's like a pidgin Papua New Guinea language that they pull from this, but he is asking you. He has been told to ask you for linking book, and as you don't respond, he gets frustrated and then takes the prison book away from you. He's about to touch the panel inside of it that would send him inside when a masked person darts him. He falls over. They drag him off, and then the masked person opens the cell and jams the lever mechanism with a distinctly shaped dagger. There's actually a huge statue of this dagger right here.
Yeah, this is your first kind of, seeing these recurring image motifs.
Yes.
There's a good chance that this dude thought you were Atris.
Yeah.
As well. Like that would make sense for him in terms of the planning. Like nobody expected this rando.
Yeah.
I expected Rand, not Rando. So you read that, you want to read that journal that you just got just to figure out what's happening. And we learned that Gen wrote the linking book for Riven, which is the Fifth Age, which is where we're at, thinking it's going to be his masterwork, but he's shit. Yeah. So his worlds are unstable. And this is really awesome. This is down to like things not making sense in the geometry. Things like, just Dark Souls 2, like, what is it? Not Lordrand, but
Drain Lake.
Drain Lake is like almost like an unstable linking book. What with the elevator thing, like mistakes like that are things that happen, you write into the thing and it makes them fall apart. Like the center cannot hold. Right.
And we're going to learn this particular detail later. Riven used to be one island. But just the fundamental tectonic instability has caused it to start like drifting apart, while also like there's really nothing beneath the world. It is all volcanic activity and just areas of void, which again is going to start using to power his machines. So like there is just a fundamental instability that is in this, and that's why Atris is writing furiously in this book. He knows his wife is trapped here. His shitty adult sons trapped his wife there, and he's trying to make sure it doesn't come apart while she's still on it, because he wants her to live.
Yeah. Weirdo.
Yeah.
What an exhausting job that would be. Just like writing these corrections into the world.
Oh man. So
so they 33 years ago they determined that Gen was too dangerous. So they hatched this plan to maroon him on this world.
No.
And they left him with the only linking book, and they jumped out into this anomaly called the Starfisher. That linked to Myst, and the book fell to our world through the Starfisher, and that's how we got to Myst.
Yes.
So
Um,
on the way out.
yeah, Catherine was captured here after the Sons, after Cirrus and Achernar tricked her into using the book, and she was kind of immediately captured upon this. At least that's what we're to believe right now. But now that Atris has a helper, we can mount the rescue. He can continue stabilizing the world while I or you or the stranger goes in and actually navigates the world that he is keeping together to get Catherine out. You know, and everything goes well, we can not only trap Gen and rescue Catherine, but rescue the other Rivenese. We can get them off of the Age to someplace else so that they do not have to die. Catherine is very invested in this. We're going to learn this later, or you would have learned this if you read the book ahead of time. Catherine is from Riven.
Yes.
Her name is Catron. We call her Catherine because that's just what Atris, called her because he didn't understand the language.
Yeah, he renamed her.
Yeah.
It's like a Final Fantasy party member. We can't visually signal Atris when we're done because the view panel is defective here, but he has instruments that measure the fundamental qualities of the world. So we have to cause a large disturbance in the world, and he believes that Star Fissure is the key. We will learn that is the gigantic void that's under the ground, right below us right now.
Yeah.
In Myst tradition, the ending is right at the beginning.
I love it. Yeah, this strange cone-like mechanism that when you look through it, it doesn't see anything. It's very mysterious. Later on, we're going to learn that this is the Star Fissure viewer. Gen had initially thought that this was a way out, a way off of the island. But as he, found no results, he sealed it up. There's a vault over the entrance here that has a 5-button combination that I believe is randomized every playthrough.
It is.
Yeah.
What's kind of cool is that this 5-button combination, even though it's randomized every playthrough, you can save your game here, go get the combination, then reload your game. And put it in. And there is an ending for if you just decide to pull the plug on the world immediately. Yeah. Fuck this shit. And it's kind of a good ending for you because you just get sucked home.
Yeah, you just go home. Later, buggers.
Yeah, I am way into relating to let these fucking weirdos deal with their family drama without me. I didn't want to come here in the first place. It's been a really long time since I've eaten anything that wasn't that I could identify. I'm out. I want to go home and read comics in bed.
Yeah.
So the idea that they allowed for that is very funny to me, even if they did it in a makeshift way.
Myst takes place in the late 18th century, so you would not go home and read comic books. So
I would go home and invent them.
Ooh, yes. Oh man! But yeah, there are a number of endings that you can get. I do love that there is just a later boners ending that you can do here.
The alternate endings of this are so funny.
You buffoon, you
they're
absolute
just
dunce.
really, really good. Yeah. I'm just fuck you, Atris. The main kind of feature on the island that our eye line is directed towards is this dome.
Yeah.
This big dome structure. And we had to head up these stairs to get in there. The only available room is this room that rotates when you press a button on the door.
Yes. There are multiple exits. I believe there are 5 of them. 5 is a recurring number in this because of Gen's obsessive nature. He believes 5 is sacred to the Denis. It is not. But there are only 2 exits available at any given time. So you press a button to rotate to the inner part, the inner doors there, and you can look through peepholes to kind of see what the orientation is and how many more times you need to press the button. The inside of the room is really interesting, although it is mostly oblique clues. There are these pillars that have ornamental beetles on the clinging to them. When you pull the string, it spreads their wings and actually opens up this little viewer. You can look in and see this hagiographic stained glass art showing Gen's abilities. And this is really classic, religious art, showing him sitting down and writing worlds, showing the battle between good and evil with him as the angelic figure and Atris as the betrayer, things like that. Yeah.
And clear cutting forests to make books.
Yes.
Which we're going to find that area later. This is interesting. There's writing on the walls as well here, but you can't read it unless you use the soundtrack liner notes to translate it.
Yes.
And it's basically like, Gen is good, Gen is great. Let's eat this food that's on our plate.
Yes.
Like, for most of it. But you do learn that he is forcing the Rivenese people to make ink, produce these books, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And he's convinced himself that he's created Riven and these people. Like, he sees himself as a god because he thinks they did not exist until he made them. That is the philosophical split.
Yes.
With the Denis. Like, some people think you're discovering worlds by writing about them. Some think you are creating them.
Right. And thus you have dominion over them. Yeah.
Yes.
From the main door that you initially walk in, there is no possible rotation that gives you an exit out. Both of them are barred. You have to go and do something that's a little bit bullshit, which is to go down a level. There's a crude door that appears to be locked with a padlock. So you think, okay, I'm going to need to get a key or like a combination or something. No, you just have to click on the bottom of the door and realize you can crawl under it, which is like, haha, dummy. Yes, this is a physical world. Here's your understanding that doors act like they visually would, but also that's never been the case anywhere else in games like this. So
yeah. It barely looks like there's enough room to clear it as well.
Right.
Like, I would have had to look this up if you hadn't messaged me about it. Not a big fan of this puzzle.
Yeah.
But this gets you to the other entrance to the rotating room once you go under. And one of the possible exits from the cave, from the back, gets you to a cave where you can reroute steam. Where you find this little steam rerouting thing to power the Starfisher viewer, that little telescope in the beginning. And there's a switch here that'll open one of the cages that blocked an exit from the first position in the dome.
Yes.
So you basically fuck around with this until you get into the large golden dome itself.
Right. But you're inside. You're on a catwalk around the outer rim. There's a plate here with 5 Tetris-like symbols that are arranged radially. Each of these symbols represents an island, we're going to learn. And this is kind of a way that it's saying, like, this is the central power structure. Like, this was built over one of the biggest fissures so that they could harness the steam to send it out to power other islands. A lot of the puzzles, at least that you will perform to get to places, to reach places, involve routing the steam in order to activate, like, elevators and doors and stuff.
Yeah. Again, underlining how the worlds of Myst are some of the least convenient video game worlds that have ever existed, where you have to walk several blocks to, it's like if your house, like, those houses where you can't run the dishwasher and the microwave at the same time.
Oh yeah, the house I used
it's
to live
like that,
in.
but a world. But like that for the entire world. Like we can't get into the Target while the Lowe's is open. So we have to go to a third location to flip a switch.
Yeah. We need to get the bus to send all the clerks over, and they have to change uniforms.
Yep. Just incredibly inconvenient on this Steam thing.
Yep. It's just like the police station in Resident Evil 2 or the mansion in Resident Evil 1. It is designed this way because of paranoia is the justification they give.
So the walkway that we have here leads outside. We can flip these levers to power up this drawbridge that is elsewhere, these different drawbridges. And there's also a trap door here that we can't activate. There's a button, it doesn't do anything now. When we go back to the rotating room, there's a lever that turns the bridge back to this ramp extending from the rotating room to the upper level of the dome.
Yeah.
So we can leave and head to this other part of the island.
Yes. So we can head over there to see a little bit of what Gen is up to. I fucking love this set piece. So as you go through this small little hallway, there's a chamber off to the left, which we're eventually going to need to go to. But at the end of it, there's like a small little hidden door that opens a panel in this kind of grand cathedral. There's no way out of it. And up toward the front, there's like a massive circular cage kind of thing. And off to either side, there are large statues of what appear to be these really mean, like, carnivorous fish. And there are wasted offerings in front of these fish. You can go up and look and see there's like rotten fruit and stuff. Back in the hallway in the hidden little area, it's like a Wizard of Oz kind of thing, because there's a chair that has a spherical cage that kind of looks like the big one up here. and there's a microphone in front of you when you close the cage in front of you. Gen would sit here, and this would send a holographic, larger-than-life image of him out to the temple, and he would like give his degrees to the people from back here. And he could use these little viewports on the side, not only to look into this actual building and control the door into and out of the temple, but also to other places on the island, like to actually see if anybody's coming up the maglev.
Yeah, yeah. And any of Gen's chairs are cool.
Yes.
Like, see, figuring out the purpose of Gen's many flamboyant chairs
Yep.
is cool in this game. All that stuff is neat. The door you open here will lead to the maglev station, which will take us to another island. We get a little roller coaster ride.
Yep.
On the way. This one's real wild. There are 2 wild ones and a couple mild ones.
Yep.
This is one of the wild ones. And we end up right near here where there is an eye orb on the wall near the station. If you touch it, it rolls back and plays a sound and reveals a Denise symbol here. So we, obviously write this down, and you also want to write down the sound, which again, how do you do it?
Chirp, chirp, something like that.
Yes.
We're going to hear this sound elsewhere. Also, if you go up the stairway into the cave mouth and look back, you will see what appears to be a silhouette of a frog with the eye where the eye would be on a frog.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought
the reveal of these frogs is very funny to me.
I love the role that they serve.
I find one of the things about these games in terms of tone is that like they're so like humorless. Like they're very serious games.
Yes.
Until you find out that Gen smokes frogs, and then I was like, okay, like, a little bit of bright light in the middle of this. Like that's pretty funny. like finding his little like stash catcher.
Yeah.
That he has and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
just squeezing frogs into his pipe.
Yeah, just like I think that's very funny.
Yeah,
yeah, he was there for 30 years. Like, you're fucking bored, man.
Man,
I'd smoke everything on this island.
No, you got to get out of your head. Yeah,
So
for sure. Oh man, but this cave, the stairway that you're on, leads up deeper into the island. This is the biggest island. This is where people actually live. And you can hear birds, which is something like you never really heard birds in Myst 1. So like, yes, this is more, this is a little bit more lived in, a little bit more natural, right? There's a button where you can summon the maglev car. And there's an option. You can either go upstairs or you can go downstairs. If you go down, you get down to some more animal clues. You find this tide pool where these 2 strange sea creatures, like large seals with long beaks, are sunning themselves.
I find this puzzle a little annoying. You have to approach them slowly or they won't make their sound.
Yes.
If you approach them too quickly, they don't make the clue that you need. This was something I had to UHS my way through because I was like, I'm just so not used to things caring about you.
Yeah.
In these games,
It feels similar to the door, actually. Like,
yes,
it keeping track of the rate at which you're proceeding is not something you've ever had to think about before.
But it was weird to me that they would be silent if I startled them.
Right.
As opposed to like getting there quicker to make them make the noise. Like I understand why they would react differently, but both times it seems like they would make their weird grunt.
Yep. Yeah. But you need to approach slowly to get them to make the sound. And they're sunning themselves on a rock that looks very similar to the shark, the whale shark thing that internally they call the warks. And there's another eye. There's an eye orb here with its own number, and also it plays a sound that sounds like a submarine decompressing.
Yes. Yeah. At the end of that path, there's an empty stone pool that has an orb in it. It makes a humming kind of bug wing sound, and it has a small crescent sliver at the left side of the box. If you press a button, this pool fills with water, and it looks like the beetle that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
So this button is beetle and that sound.
Yeah. And at the end of the path here is a ladder leading down into a hole in the water. We're going to need to lower the thing that gets into the water The water behaves anomalously. Like we've seen the just like there shouldn't be this funnel, leading down. Why is my maglev able to go through this tunnel? It's because there's a bacteria in the water that is thermophobic. It will actually carry water with it if it's heated up. That's never used for a puzzle, but it's just a very good explanation for why you have these surreal water formations.
Yeah, they look like sinkholes, like where you've seen like sinkholes open in the water, like, and just like looks like water's pouring into an empty space. They look like that.
Yeah. Well, if you overflow outlet at a dam. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. If you head up from here, there's a junction that leads to this like winding, branching path in a clear-cut section of jungle. Again, clear cutting, a good sign of like things aren't great.
Yeah.
And a minecart here will take us to the book assembly island, going through this gravity tunnel that winds through the water. The water is held in place with these red glowing heat rings, but we don't need to go here just yet.
Right.
We need to stay here on this island, which is the only island the villagers get to live on.
Right.
Really.
All of the others are for Gen's purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can go through a door. This is where we can see a beetle and hear its hum as it flies. We can go down into the jungle and we see another huge dagger sticking into some woods off of the path. There's another orb down here that makes the oinking sound that the sea creatures made. And it has its own numeral. So again, drawing these connections. And at the very end of this, there is what appears to be a large wooden idol of the Wark, of the angry fish that they have been forced to worship.
Yes. And this is meant to be scary.
Yes.
This is foreboding on purpose because they're hiding important stuff here.
Yeah.
Another branch takes you to this elevated walkway where we get spotted. Somebody in a guard tower spots you, activates a siren, and everybody clams up.
Yes.
Everybody goes into their houses. So when you go beyond this tower, you go to the village, all the villagers are running to hide. They're taking their children from play, basically trying to keep them safe from you.
Right. Because they do not know who. The last time an outsider came, it was bad news for them.
It was Gen.
Yeah. I love this village. The way that it is built into the side of the crater here. The fact that there is an actual living space for people when that was conspicuously missing in the original Myst. Love this visually.
Yeah. This island has better ecology.
Yes.
Than Myst ever did. Like that you can really see that's a value of this game.
Yes. But you can go up into the village and look down on the water and see these strange holes. There's a track that goes beneath and around the lake, and you have to go up into the village to lower the train car submarine into place. And as you are going around, you can like hear babies crying inside the houses. Like all of them are having their own finale of MASH as you do your stuff.
Yeah. It reminded me of like Nier. When you go to the village in Nier, everybody hides from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So to get to the submarine, we have to return to the far path that is beyond this tide pool, find this ladder that goes in the water, where the submarine is docked. And the track around the lake has these multiple branches and nodes, but we can only go up where ladders are descended. But we can go up to a control tower where we can descend them all.
Yes.
Really, really key to discovering kind of the metal puzzle of this is finding a schoolhouse. Again, big Outer Wilds energy to this. Like find the place where the people in the world are being taught to learn.
To get all of this very important stuff. And just the way that they teach you this stuff is so elegant. I love it. Good. So you go into the schoolhouse. The main fixture is this, again, hologram cage. You can crank it, and Gen is speaking for the students in Denis. This is the first time that we've seen him. We're guessing that it's him, an old man, ageless himself. Yeah, his dad would be about that age. So this is Gen, and he is indoctrinating these kids. And at the back of the classroom, there's like this little mechanism. It's this almost hangman-like game. It's like a game of chance where to learn the Denis numbering system, you send this little bracket back and forth, and it rolls up a random number. It shows you the symbol, and then there are two humanoid figures that are dangling from above that drop down a number of notches that is delineated or enumerated by the symbol. So if it's the symbol for 3, it'll go down 3 notches. I believe when it hits 10, they will be snapped up by the wark at the bottom.
Yeah. It's like a little hangman game kind of thing.
Yeah.
There'd be some verbal component determining how far you went down in this. I think this is really elegant and cool as well.
Yeah. And it's also demonstrating for the kids what happens when you do something bad. Like this is a game, much like Hangman, like, yes, this person, why is this person hanging? Oh, because they did something bad. Ha ha. Let's make this a part of the game. No, this is a very grim thing that is being taught to these kids, which is sacrifice. It's execution.
Yeah. Very specifically execution.
Yes.
Not sacrifice. At first I thought it was sacrifice. And I was like, oh, they worship these things. And then you get to the where Gen can say yes or no and give a thumbs up or thumbs down, basically. A tiny nitpick I have about this, which we're going to find pretty soon. I wish the works were cooler and scarier.
Yeah.
Very much. They're so dorky. And they're meant to be scary, and they're not scary at all. They're just whales. Whales with tusks, and I'm like, man, this game really wants me to think this is scary, and I fucking can't. How are these people scared of this thing? It looks so sweet.
I want to pet it.
Yeah, it's just a big old doggo. Like you meet one later, and it just gets annoyed at you. At one point, it literally goes and turns away from you. It's like a sea marge.
It's a sea marge.
And then it just scoots away.
Oh, I love it.
It's also called a wark, which we'll learn is a portmanteau of a whale and a shark.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, man. Second draft, guys. I disappointed in the wark.
Don't just use the same. Just don't use your first idea, guys. Please.
Yeah.
I beg of you.
Come on, dudes.
Oh man. But this is great. I love.
I love the puzzle aspect of it. I love this as a method of learning. This was super cool.
Yeah. There's also writing on the chalkboards. The rules of Gen. Gen is our master. Gen created us. Gen defeated Atris.
Yes. Him defeating Atris is one of the rules.
Yep.
We're going to find the real life equivalent of this children's game. This conical structure made of golden bars, which is their gallows where he would dip people.
Yeah.
To get eaten by the warks. You can hear the warks down there, which again sounds kind of scary, but then later they're goofballs.
Yeah. You can't do anything with this because the floor is not extended. So you can lower the seat that people would need to sit on, but you cannot get to it because it is an open pit with water out in the middle.
There might be warks in there. So we're going to take that other path to go to the book assembly island.
Right.
That we saw from before.
Yeah, we're going to go on this wild ride that that dispenses us fortuitously into a wood chipper that is not turned on at the moment. This was not for people. This was for logs.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. How funny it would be if you just got sent to the wood chipper.
Game over. You died.
Oh, shit. Guess who's back? There's a circular brick building here with this burner under it. This is some kind of water boiler. We can't get inside there because the door says it's too hot. It's a safety mechanism. And this is where they're making paper. That water boiler is to make paper. We saw this in those holy pictures.
Yes.
We saw it before. We can reroute the gas lines from the center of the lake and make the controls on the side operable so we can turn off the burner, drain the water, and get inside.
Yes. And you can get inside and actually go down the drain pipe and follow it to where it goes out, and it dispenses over the edge of the crater. It's a big crater lake that we're in, and you can walk
a caldera.
Yeah. And you can walk back over the rim and through this along this pathway to a set of doors that you couldn't get to before. You can actually kick down a ladder here so that you don't have to go through the burner again. But
there are a couple of shortcuts like that. I really wanted a couple more of those kind of things.
Same.
In this, but it's cool. Whenever they show up, I'm grateful.
Yeah. But inside this double doors is where we catch drugs.
This is the stash bait. We head inside these doors, and there's like a little cage with bait in it. We can put that in it, lower this cage, and then it comes, when it snaps, we pull it back up. There's a tiny little orange frog in it. It chirps. We've heard this chirp before, and it hops away before it can be smoked like its brothers.
Yep.
Before it can be harvested.
Yeah. But these are just frogs that live down in the tunnels. I love, like, let's go frog fishing, guys.
Yeah. Gotta renew.
Uh-huh.
You know?
I think this is clever, but I could also see it being frustrating. There's no obviously apparent way forward. Like, you can go back out into the crater, like get back to the jungle. The way forward actually involves understanding that when you open to the doors, they could have potentially blocked something else while they were open. So you have to walk through, turn around, close the doors, and then you have two other walkways that you can go down.
Yeah. Yeah. This is fine.
Yeah.
The thing where later you have to do you turn around in the maglev.
Yep.
To get to the other side. Like, that felt artificial. Like, why would you just build one door in this? You know,
it's a weird station.
This feels a little artificially too to me, but it's not horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
The left passage goes downstairs to another dome, a rotating dome. And there's a hole in the wall revealing a lens that we can get to by closing the door and going through this hidden passageway. And looking into this, like, kind of kinetoscope, we see this eye being animated here and a golden symbol with a circle with a vertical line through it.
Yeah.
We're going to later learn this is a number.
That's color.
What was that?
It's color.
Oh, yeah, color. Yeah. We're learning the color of this number here.
Yes. So can't do anything with this right now, but obviously making a note of, okay, this is this island's dome, and this is the symbol that is associated with it. The other path through the right door, back up in the frog trapping zone, will take you outside.
Yeah.
And there's like a little lever where you can just flip it, and you hear some humming stop. And there's like a little building up ahead. The doors are locked. However, if you go back down to the frog trap, that lever that you hit stopped a fan that's above the frog trap. And you can climb through the vents to get inside of this foreboding building. I hate being in here because it feels like I'm going to get caught. This is Gen's workshop.
Yeah. Slowly filling up with frog fumes. Now there's no ventilation. Yeah. That feeling of getting caught is really great in this, even though, like, the nature of the way, you know, there aren't people walking around like Maniac Mansion. Like, anywhere you're going to get caught, it's going to be because you teleport into a cage. But this does have that feeling.
Yeah.
Really well. In the middle of this, there's a furnace with an inactive linking book inside that has been scorched.
Yes.
Here.
Gen is writing.
Yeah, he's making worlds. On the desk, there's bookbinding equipment. Originally, there was going to be a way to do this just for fun, but people just thought it was a puzzle.
Yeah.
And kept trying to make books. So they ended up cutting it as an interactive element.
Yeah.
There is this globe of water, and when you activate the burner, it acts, it moves away from the burner. The water gets bigger, so we're kind of seeing some clues about how the water works with heat, which is not really used for a puzzle in an interesting way. It's just a world detail.
Yeah, yeah. The second desk is his little vape stand. This is where he's got all of the equipment for distilling the smokable extract from the island's frogs, the E-tram. Yeah.
Yep. Frog vaping.
Yeah.
And then the desk right under the ventilation shaft has his journals, which we need to read and get hints.
Yes. Off to the left of the desk, there is a journal that sits open alongside one of the eye orbs that we've seen, embedded in the rock elsewhere. Because it's not embedded, it won't make a noise, but it does have the Denis numeral for 1 on it. We now know this. The note in the open journal says, we confiscated this off of a floating object in the bay that is visible from some of my surveying equipment. We're going to get to where this is visible later on. This is, we have the 5 options. This is one of the ones that is divorced from its context that we need to put together later.
Yeah. So we want to read his journal here. And we learn some stuff that we already knew, but we get some things confirmed and get some additional context.
Right.
He's attempting to write these linking books, but he doesn't have the proper materials. So he's had to kind of do it from scratch, reinventing the wheel here. he's observing the starfisher. There, he's been observing that, and it implies that there's a breathable atmosphere in there. Just, we don't die when we get sucked into the starfisher.
Nope.
Starfisher takes you to Earth. And by capping off the starfisher, he's discovered that he can use similar anomalies to that to steam power his mechanisms.
Right.
Because his books are janky, he needs to power them like he's the steampunk version.
Yeah.
It's basically, the Zyborn clock version of linking books.
There are four linking books on a cliff.
Well, there are actually 5 linking books.
Okay, yes.
Pay attention.
Okay.
There are 5 orbs.
Yeah.
If one of them falls down and makes a caw noise.
So this is the first mention of the Ahmad. After Denis fell, Gen was taken to this place called the Cleft, where Anna grew up, Anna, his mother, and grew up there. And eventually, when he got old enough, he went and lived with the people in the desert, these Ahmad people. And this is where he met Atris's mother, Keita. But these Ahmad, they had a kind of technology that allowed the projection of holographic images. So that's what we are seeing when we have that those round cages that we've seen in the schoolroom or in the temple that you can go to.
Yeah, the temple.
Yeah. So he used the Ahmad technology, what he remembered of it, to create these viewers, and discovered that, alongside this, it is possible to stabilize bad linking books by kind of using this, weird Faraday cage technology, steam, and these fire marbles to create a power source. Fire marbles being what it sounds like, little marbles that have that are an energy source.
The ultimate slammers. He has a superstitious fixation on the number 5. He thinks this is sacred to the Denis. It turns out that's not true. He also believes that he's creating worlds rather than discovering them.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of misconceptions.
Yes. The eye symbols that we've been seeing, as we kind of said, on these kinetoscopes, on the rotating domes, these are Denis color notation. There are 6 of them, but Gen is trying to hammer them down to 5, similar to Isaac Newton, who was like 7 is a sacred number, so there has to be 7 colors in the rainbow. God damn it. Indigo, I'm going to make indigo happen.
Yeah, quit trying to make indigo happen.
Yeah. But he's written down all 6 symbols, but they are not correlated to anything. The code for that is later on.
Yeah. And he succeeded in making a stable link to a new world to give his, so he's on his way out.
Yeah.
He calls it by a number. He always calls these things numbers. And it is the 233rd age.
Yeah.
There's a symbol for it that looks like a 9 and an 8 jammed together.
Yeah. And this is where you can deduce, okay, so Denis, they count in base 25. They've got the 5 different numerals. They've got the 4 different numerals. It rotates once clockwise to multiply, to add 5 to it. The fact that you have these 2 symbols, 1 9 and 1 8, means that you have 9 sets. It's 25 plus 8 is a remainder. So you get the 233rd age. I felt like a fucking genius when I figured that out when I was 15, Gary.
I didn't get that from this. I got that later. The symbol thing. I actually went through the whole game without really understanding why he called it the 233rd age. Later, I wrote out the numbers and figured out the relation between them through just like doing notes.
Yeah, the rotation. The way
exactly.
Yeah.
The similarities between them. But yeah, this is, I think I like this puzzle. I like figuring out the numbers. I was very scared this was going to be a language learning, like La Mulana thing.
Yeah.
Which, it's just more complicated than I want to do. There's different kinds of, like, it's very interesting. We spend a lot of time on this network, to some people's chagrin, I think, talking about what defines a puzzle.
Yeah.
And there's so many different types of puzzle.
Yeah.
Which is like something that we're learning.
It's a very inelegant and imprecise word.
It's horrible in terms of gamer terminology, because this is closer, like learning a numbering system is a puzzle, but it's also just another numbering system.
Yeah.
It's also just another way we could do numbers now. It's weird in terms of it being a puzzle.
It's an exercise. It's an exercise that we did like in computer science classes, in order to
Yeah.
learn the difference between base 10 and base 2 or base 16, like for hexadecimal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just, it's interesting. It's like there's no element of riddle to it. Something I think a lot about with puzzles and my own like predilection for them is that I do best with puzzles and games when there is meaning attached, as opposed to math or like cipher.
Yeah.
So like something that is can basically be a notation, like a Stevens sausage roll, which is a number of turns and degrees and rotations, or something like Scrabble, which is about spelling, is more difficult for me than something like a thimbleweed park, which tends to be about the meaning of the objects, or a password, or taboo.
It's like it's a little bit of a difference between like syntactical and semantic puzzling almost.
Yes.
Like this is syntactical. This is mapping meaning from different symbols onto concepts that we need to understand. So like, the puzzle that we get here, as we talk about this is, all right, we know how to count from 1 to 5 or from 1 to 10 in Denis, right? Here we have numbers that go up to 25, and we don't realize that yet because we've seen, like we see here in these, in this diagram, symbols that we've never seen before. You need to make the leap to figure out that the rotation is meaningful. And then figure out because, this is going to help us like, enter a password later on. That is, semantic, right? Whereas syntactical, like as to the Thimbleweed Park kind of stuff and the kind of puzzles that you find most engaging, kind of plays with the meaning and relationship between things, as opposed to
there's more context.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's less like elemental, math is the only thing that I can think of for it, where it's like, the same way that like, 5 simply is.
Yes.
There's no context for that. It just is. These puzzles kind of play in that. And like one of the reasons why, and like a lot of these puzzles, the major puzzles in this game feel like they are related to that.
Yeah.
And this part of the reason why, again, like I like this game, I am mildly cooler on it than the other big adventure games we've done or big puzzle games we've done, is because I felt like The Outer Wilds does a better job of engaging with multiple versions, like a wider spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of that kind of thing. Like there are elements that are that kind of semantic, or not semantic, syntactic, version of this, but there are also several of them that are kind of like semiotic.
Yeah.
Or, about, and it's just a quirk of how my brain works.
Yeah.
Not one isn't better than the other, but it's just like the reason why I like, classic adventure games more than I like doing cryptic crosswords, or doing Sudoku.
Yeah. I like this.
Like that.
I like this because I think that I've got a little bit more of an appetite for the semantic puzzle than you do. I feel like this is really well mixed together because a lot of this is, adjacent to and mixed in with the contextual storytelling, the deductive storytelling or inductive storytelling that happens here.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that the inductive like storytelling that you do ends up being not very necessary for progress. Do you know what I mean? Like it's really satisfying to learn what Gen is doing.
Yeah.
Here, like finding that children's game and saying like, oh, this is a method of indoctrination.
Yeah.
That tells us a lot about his character and stuff. That's compelling as hell. But also that could just be a wireframe that teaches you numbers.
Yeah.
The context is important because it's additive and it's really cool. It doesn't teach you anything additionally that you use to progress the plot or progress the game. Really,
I feel like the game is explicitly a good fusion of those. I feel like it does teach you the plot. It teaches you, the way that Gen is, getting at the people young, trying to indoctrinate them. Oh, what's up?
I'm kind of misspeaking. Like it definitely does that, but you don't need that information to complete the game. Right. If that makes sense. Like your obstacles, the things that stop you from moving forward in this, do not rely on that understanding.
Yeah.
It's integrated because you're being told a story at the same time you're doing these wireframe puzzles, and they tell you them at the same time in ways that are elegantly connected, but it's not necessary for you to have both of them in a way that like I feel like I'm not trying to damn anything by comparison because again, 1997, but I just feel like Outer Wilds like did a little bit more elegantly
Yeah.
in terms of having both. You know, it's a subtle distinction I'm trying to make here, but it's like, I wanted to be rewarded for figuring out that Gen was, I wanted more than an intrinsic reward for figuring out that Gen was indoctrinating children.
Yes.
Like that felt like a cool aha moment, and it felt good, and it told me more of the context, but it didn't get me past the door.
Right.
You
right.
know?
Yeah. So it's not a complete dovetail join between those two things that it is trying to convey to you.
Yeah.
You know, like
and one of those I just find more interesting than the other.
You're getting two pieces of information, one of which is an input, one of which is an input to help you make progress. The other one is, a softer distinction that is rewarding because it is pleasing to consume. The story about how this tyrant is exercising his rule over these people. And arguably, you could say it is helping you make a decision about what to do with Gen, whether or not you believe him. Because, the fact that he's, using these executions to teach kids, numbers, not just numbers. They obviously they were a society before he came here, but his own numbers, right? Like that is really damning evidence in its own against him. He's got to go, right? Because of the way he is using these people, and that ties to, how, it is not necessarily understated, let's say, how evil he is and how good Catherine is. So it is kind of, linked to another shortcoming in the story, which is it's never a question, what's going on with Gen, right? Yeah,
that's kind of what I mean. Like if that was the reward for figuring out that plot stuff, and this is a minor point, right? Like this isn't Vorpal flaw. This doesn't damn the game by any means.
Yeah.
It's just kind of the recognizing where the separation between like the Gone Home-esque gameplay of this, which is, determining what happened, the archaeology part, and then the puzzles, which are really, really well like disguised.
Yeah.
In it. They're part of the world here, but it's not, again, I wanted to choose a door that was, and I would make that choice based on knowing Gen's character.
Yeah.
I wanted to think about like his personality and be like, Gen is this kind of dude, so he'll probably do this.
Yeah.
And have that help me move forward. And kind of with him being paranoid and making everything into this very complicated series of locks all across the island. We kind of short circuit that because you don't really think of him as like a rational actor.
No.
Like knowing his character did not advance me in the game.
Yeah.
As much as I maybe wanted it to.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
So again, minor nitpick. Like it's not a huge deal. It just kind of, when I think about like the joy I was getting, from figuring out the number system, which was super cool. And I'm not trying to diminish you feeling like a 15-year-old genius for doing it either. Like it's neat, but it also felt a little bit like it could have been a wireframe, like come in one of those books of 100 puzzles.
Yeah.
Like here's a cipher.
I mean,
kind of thing, as opposed to the storytelling.
There's a spectrum for that kind of stuff. Like this is I would put this nowhere near the seventh guest in the realm of meaningless puzzles.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't
just to make sure that is a comparison that was used before for seventh guest. I want to put my foot down very firmly against against that comparison.
It is a spectrum.
Yeah.
Way more elegant and cool than the seventh guest.
Yes.
In terms of that, but your cursor isn't a skeleton hand that does come fingery stairs. So
it's a wash.
Yeah. But yeah, I just that's the kind of I'm happy that I came to it because it was a thing that was like sticky under my nail.
Yeah.
Since I played it, and I kind of articulating it out loud. Coming to it. It's not a conclusion. I came to this episode with fully formed.
Yeah.
I was just kind of thinking about it as we went.
No, and that's useful perspective because for me, both of those things, figuring out that Gen is a bastard and figuring out how the Denis numbering system works above 10, those are both intrinsically rewarding to me. And because they are both intrinsically rewarding, roughly in equal measure for me, actually, I never thought about the inherent disconnect between the two of them.
Yeah, or the extrinsic reward.
Yeah.
for them. And as a extension of my, like, I'm a gamer, I'd like a treat kind of thing, like intrinsic rewards. I always like that when I'm getting both.
Yeah.
I want something to be joyful in and of itself, but then I also want to like progress or feel like I'm moving forward with it too.
Yeah. But the epiphany that the symbol for 5 is just the symbol for 1 rotated. It's like, oh shit, so the rotation is meaningful. All right, here we go. I fucking love it. It's so good.
I just ended up writing them all out on a piece of paper and then just kind of looking at them and figuring it out.
Yeah.
Once I had them. But yeah, it is a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Like it is a good version of that kind of puzzle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is neat.
Yeah. But, you are solving that. You're learning the number system to get this combination for the domes. Once we figure out how to open them up. Right. So we'll need that information for later. Also worth knowing is that Catherine is leading this rebel group, what the Islanders call the Black Moiety. And they're getting more bold with their attacks.
Yes. These knives that we've seen, these are the Moiety knives. And they're made of an element that Gen hasn't encountered on Riven. And he's finding more of them on the south side of the island where disappearances are being reported. We're going to later learn that Catherine is creating these knives.
Yeah.
So Gen is working on this 234th age as a place for him to relocate his colony. He's unsure if he will need to migrate because the shifts in the island have slowed. So he doesn't know if things are fixing themselves. Climate change will just go away, or he doesn't realize that Adris is correcting his book.
Yeah, it's only
he thinks maybe that's happening.
It's a possibility, but he has no way of knowing for sure. Yeah. And the last entry talks about how he has captured Catherine and how his guildmen have discovered that the Moiety are carrying around these crystals that can power unstable linking books that have been built off of Denis schematics, which he's kicking himself because he's basically rebuilt all of these islands to power his books, whereas Catherine's running around with a rock that makes it that makes it work. Yeah, that just does it. Again, the fundamental inelegance of Gen's solutions to things. I love it.
Yeah. American stick-to-itiveness. It's a real Tucker story. So the path past his workshop leads you along this walkway to another large golden dome, this one on the Temple Island. And writing on the rim of the dome, if we look this up, says the end of the world is near. So people know their islands are falling apart.
Yes.
There is a crank handle inside that extends this circular catwalk, creating a path back to the beginning portions of the game. So there's a nice little shortcut here.
Yes. And a step outside reveals this gap in the walkway. If you turn around, you can press a button to raise the piece of this to actually go out and get to the rotation room again, which is nice. You can open it up again, creating this little walkway back. We're going to need this because we're going to have to quickly get around to another exit up here. Yeah.
This pathway, which we have, leads around to a closed door. And when we open it, we go into the rotating room. With this section of the walkway raised, we can circle back down by the steam pipe to a strange section of the floor that we saw earlier. And we press this button, it takes us down a level to where there is a spinning dome here that is currently spinning. And we check out the kinetoscope, and it reveals the Temple Island symbol is a circle with a dot in the middle.
Yes.
So,
yeah. So useful information. We make a note of it. There was a maglev station behind Gen's workshop. So if we retrace our steps back to there, we can take this over to the last major island. There's a fifth island, but it is basically 2 screens. This last island is called the Survey Island. And this is the station where there are 2 exits that are available to you depending on which way your car is pointed.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're coming or going, you can get in and then like reverse the car.
Yeah.
Here to leave the other way, which again felt a little artificial to me. Like just do a second door. That would be convenient for you and me. The near exit that we can go to takes us up to this strange plateau with these sharp rock pillars, ridged chips jetting out of this brilliant blue water here.
Yeah. And you can take this elevator up to an observation deck where you can see that Gen has built this huge replica of all of the islands of Riven. And there's a panel in front of you that has the Tetris-like shapes that we have seen before that actually correspond. This is the first time we've seen like an overhead view of what the Age of Riven looks like. When you press the button, it activates these water bulges that show the topography of the islands and kind of like helping us understand what each of those shapes stands for.
Yes. Yeah. And if we go to the backside of it, there is a pin map of the topography of the island. A pin map being like there's those little square things where you push your hand on it.
Yeah, your face.
Your hand comes out, your face, your hand, somebody else's face pops out. This tells us where the fire marble dome is on each island. This is what we actually need for the waffle iron of doom, or what have you.
Yeah.
There's weird limitations of this. It can't show things. There can't be overhangs in it. So the dome stands out because it's the only roundy that's on here. It's hard to recognize these as places for me, just because they are so abstracted.
Yeah.
I knew that the dome was there, but I did not know necessarily what I was looking at in each of these things for quite a while. This was a UHS thing for me.
Yeah. Each of these, so like you have to click on one of the constituent Tetris blocks that makes up the picture of the island. This will raise up the a 5x5 grid of the topography of the island as you go and look. Kind of the leap that you have to make is that this will only show the grid, the domes that are above ground. The one that's on the Book Assembly Island is actually below ground. If you are in the room where the dome is spinning in that, you can look up and see that there's a hole in the ceiling. So that's what you're looking for in this pin map. But you are looking at this and rotating the pins in order to see, where these are at, and make a note, of like broadly, if you mapped out all of Riven on this 25 by 25 grid, where would the domes be? That ends up being one of the pieces of information, the positions where you put these marbles, and the color of marble that goes into different places is denoted by the symbol that is on the spinning domes. Simple. It's easy.
Yeah. No, it's nothing. Relentlessly complicated. Imagine doing this if you were him. Like, goddamn. One of the least convenient video game worlds to live in. So this one, there's a kinetoscope pointing at the fire marble dome that we have here, but it's broken.
Yes.
So we can kind of eyeball it and see that it's a circle with a horizontal line through it, which we'll later learn means orange. Or learn is orange from this, depending on how your eyes work.
Yes.
The far exit from this maglev station takes you to this underground chamber above a lava vent. And when you pull a lever here, an elevator car rises up from the water, which you can ride down into the basement here. And when we walk along this path, we see somebody in white robes who quickly runs away and takes the maglev away to the jungle island, flees from us.
Yes. We're not going to chase them right away. You can go along the basement hallway here to find another viewing chair that's kind of in this underwater kind of observation area. You can lift a lever and you get two viewing screens, one of which will show Catherine in her cell. So she is alive. This is proof of life, unless it was a recording the entire time.
Yeah. They don't have recording technology in this.
Oh, they do.
Totally, like closed circuit cameras would fuck up this entire world.
But they've got recording stuff. They've got that's how he gives the lectures to the kids.
Holograms.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a hologram. It's different than recording.
Yeah. Tupac is different than Tupac, dude.
Yeah. Okay. But the right screen will actually show you a rotating view of kind of the underwater portions of the islands. There is a prominent light that lights up in this view every time you go and look, and these lights are different colors. This actually correlates to, on the display, one of the color notations. So this is how you find out which of the eye shapes corresponds to which color. Yeah.
There's also a red light that we can you can press here, which summons a work to you. And the fact that this is right here by your viewing window,
Yep.
Again, exhibit 44 or whatever of Gen being a shithead.
Yeah.
He's just sitting down here watching works do stuff. If you keep hammering the work button, the work will get annoyed at you.
Yep.
And then just like leave. He makes a Homer noise and then leaves and won't come back.
I love it.
So I love ruining the relationship between Gen and the works.
He doesn't deserve
Friendship
the
ended
works.
with works.
Yeah. Also, one of the views that you can look at, you can see what appears to be the shape of like a sunfish that is etched into a cliff. And there's a space where an eye would have been. This is where Gen found the number 1 eye orb that was in his office. So this is the other clue that you need.
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, you can see that that's the animal that's associated with it. When we come outside, we emerge inside the work idol there. And this ground level lets you out into the forest, and we can go onto the upper level, which takes us to the upper walkways.
Yeah.
Where the fire marble dome is.
Yes.
Its symbol is the eye that is partway closed and is just a slit. And this is red, represents red.
Yeah. When you step out of the idol, this is when you can see the kid like standing there sucking his thumb before he runs away. Really unsettling.
Yeah. Well, you just came from like what their big, Satan figure or whatever.
Yeah.
This thing that they worship fear.
Here comes this man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of the wark. Beyond the dome on the upper levels is this extremely tall observation tower where you can sit into a chair that is set into a wark skull. And you can look down and you can see that you are above the gallows. This is where Gen would preside over the executions. One of the levers opens and closes the floor of the gallows where the wark would come up and eat somebody. As the villagers watched.
Gross. Sad. You can go to the gallows and lower the seat here, which then you can ride up to the upper walkway to see where the people came from. This was a cool moment for me, like figuring out like, I wonder if I can ride that. And then, doing it. When we get in, we find a cell where there is one of the resistance members sleeping in the corner. He doesn't talk to you or anything. You can go and press the button to open the cell, and when we come back, he's gone.
Yeah.
So we know he went somewhere. We have to figure out where he went. It turns out that there is a secret drain and that you can open and pull a handle in there, which causes a secret door. It felt a little artificial to me that the prisoner waited for me to see them so they could disappear. Like, why would you wait to escape? Fucking weirdo.
Don't know. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was keeping watch. I have no idea.
Yeah. Or he's there to show it's weird that if he was there, if he's like put there by Catherine or instructed by the resistance to hang out there in case an Idris ever came to rescue him. That's one that's like, no, fuck you, actually. Like, I'm not going to get lowered into the water for you.
Yeah, it's like 2 steps away to be lowered into the wark, buddy. Yeah.
But also, like, why wouldn't he just like show us how to open the thing?
Yeah.
If he thought we were Idris or a rescuer,
Yeah.
But it's fine. There's not very many things to interact with in the jail, so it's pretty easy to figure out.
Yeah. I love the way this crawl space works because you have to click through. It's very dark. Click advance. It appears that it dead ends out into the water. But as you turn around, you see that you can activate lights and turn on lights as you go back to the entrance. And then with the lights back on, and you turn around, you can see that there's like a little trap door that you can open up that diverts over into another section of tunnel.
Yeah. With a big set of pillars, these 25 pillars with silhouettes of an animal on it. And we get that dagger symbol of the resistance.
Yeah.
So the code for this is hidden in those eye orbs. Each eye orb that we had played an associated sound with an animal, which we identified by checking out the animals by going around or seeing the silhouette of the animal.
Yes.
And this is how we're able to do these in order.
Yes, and the numerals on the orbs as you touch them denotes which one of these you press in which order. So that is the way that you get into here. You don't want to head here immediately, though. Like, you can come here, but I think that you would have more context. The efficient way is to find Gen.
Yeah, I came here first and then came back and stuff, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Weirdly, when you do go through here, it's the cover of the game, even though it's this like tiny little room you spend very little time in.
Right.
It's like we got a striking image with this gigantic root sphere.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to lose it.
So that was one major puzzle that could take us to the Rebels age. The other big one we have to do is to get to Gen. And it's a huge process to link to the 233rd age that involves powering up the linking books, which involves dealing with that waffle iron.
Yes. Yeah. And making, so they can spin to get there. So we have to get on to the top of the large gold dome, which involves raising and turning a drawbridge into a stairway, and then circling around through the rotating room to get to it.
Yes.
Which brings us to the grid, as you mentioned. There are 6 little fire marbles off to the side. And it looks like a square version of Chinese checkers, sort of.
Yeah.
Just, they just put them on the grid. And you place them where the dome is on each island with the correct color. Again, and I have no idea how I'd feel about this if I wasn't colorblind, but the amount of friction here was immense and really irritating. So your mileage may vary on this.
I like it quite a bit. So, yeah, mileage will vary. But when you put them in the right place and you lower the top half of the grid, the waffle iron, you hear a huge release of steam. And you hear things power up. You have routed to all of the individual domes of the steam that is necessary to open them up. And this is where you're going to find the linking books to Gen's 233rd age, where he is doing most of his writing.
Yes.
So to open those up, you have to go down to any of them that have a kinetoscope and then press the button when the gold symbol is lit up. This is finicky and bad. I wish that it wasn't a timing-based thing.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like this little stop,
Nothing else requires reflexes.
Wheel. Yeah. So we go and do this. The book is locked behind glass, and we can use the code from his journal to set the sliders in the right notches and link to it. And it links us to his age. It is this barren terrain here with these mushroom rocks jutting out. We're not going to spend very much time here.
No.
Because of course Gen puts you in a cage when you come here. That's Gen's trick.
Yeah. We are caught in this age surrounded by unpowered linking books. There's only one thing you can really do, which is to press a button that summons Gen from his other little chamber to come in. Yeah. And we've got an actual person talking to us.
Yeah. And this is, when you talk about, when I was saying how I don't feel like they do very much with like the Gen or Catherine, choice here. Part of it is during, while he's saying all the right things, they're playing pretty sinister music.
Yeah.
It's well performed and warm. And the music is just like spooky oboe.wave for the whole thing. Yeah. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But he starts, he's like, hey, I'm sure you've heard a lot about me, but this is all false. I don't trust people as soon as I hear them either. So I get it. But let me talk to you a little bit about how I've changed. I once did, it's true. I tried to murder my son.
Yeah.
And Adris trapped me on age 5. And that was horrible. No sentence could be too harsh, but you have to know what Adris did had horrible repercussions for these people.
Yeah.
And that's a real, wait a minute.
Yeah. And he's saying, oh, the age is decaying and, I could have helped them so much better if I was outside of it, but, here's how things go. And it's like,
c'est la vie.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I know that you've made yourself a god and you've been sacrificing people to warks. So yeah, all that. And he starts, again, talking about Catherine, saying, oh, she's created so many problems for the people of this island. And he says, between you and me, Catherine believes that she's this religious savior.
Like, bro,
Dude.
you painted yourself with a halo like a bunch. This feels like this is reaching out to the specific PC gamer dad market who might be unsatisfied with their daughters-in-law.
Oh, yeah?
You know?
You know what? She is
they're meant to relate
grateful.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, she ain't so great. They're not good enough for my boy. You know?
My saintly boy.
Yeah. Yeah. But he says, Atris probably sent you to save her. And of course he thinks that, but he doesn't know what she's like now.
Yeah. Oh, ever since she came here, it's vastly changed. Right.
Which is intriguing and cool because we haven't met her yet.
Right.
But again, that spooky oboe music just kind of signaled that he was lying.
Yeah. So he knows that when I came here, my linking book was stolen from me. He doesn't have it. Right. Because it was his guy was darted. Right. So he wants me to recover that book for him while he continues working on his promised sanctuary. Like I need to be here creating a new home for these people. You just go get that linking book for me and then we'll talk.
Yeah. Yep. And he turns on, as a courtesy, he's like, I'm going to do this for you. Here are all these linking books around so you can bop over to the different islands.
Yeah.
And go find that. We can go to the 5th island, which is the prison island, which is Catherine's cell, but we can't get in yet.
Right.
It is a sound lock, and we cannot open it yet.
Right. So we have that piece of information, and we have our mission from Gen, should we choose to accept it. So now we can go over to the age where the Moiety are living, the age of Tay, where we can get there. You go and you put in the animal pillar code: fish, beetle, frog, sun, or wark. And the water that is covering the far vault door flows away, and the linking book slides out of the panel with this dagger symbol. And you can actually see there's this crystal laid over top of it, and the book is partially burned. We're going to figure out why later on.
Yeah. We can use this, it has the crystal, so we don't have to go through a bunch of machinations. And we emerge looking into this tree hive that is the cover of the game. And we turn around and walk into a hallway, we get darted and dragged to a tree, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We regain consciousness in a cell, and a woman comes in and tries to speak to you. We can't understand her, but she does say something that sounds like Catherine, and she leaves you some books to read.
Yes.
One of them is a linking book to Denis, and the other is Catherine's journal.
Right. And there's a note slipped inside the journal. The Moiety are in contact with Catherine from her cell. She actually wrote it from in there. She says, warns you, hey, don't signal Atris until I'm free, is what she says. And we set about reading her journal that she has kept since she arrived here on Riven.
Yep. And again, minor bugbear, but I have to point it out. I want to outlaw cursive in games.
Yep.
I hate this script. I just went online and read a transcript of it.
Yes.
Which eliminated some of the convenience of me playing this on my phone. It was like pretty irritating.
Yes.
So get rid of cursive, please.
Yeah. In general, I don't care for it. Keep it in historical movies.
It's ugly. You can't read it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't get it.
Yeah. It feels like class signaling. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to preparatory school.
Look at me.
That kind of horseshit.
I have no calluses on my hands. I'm a fancy boy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm very soft. I'm the protagonist of Cabin Boy. Look at me. Her journal talks about how when she arrived on Riven, how she got darted, and eventually reuniting with her people who are very cold towards her.
Yes.
This is the thing you alluded to in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. So this rebellion, the Moiety formed after these two Rivenese witnessed the struggle between Gen and Atris that resulted in Gen being left here, right? Gen had, fashioned himself as this infallible god, and, he no longer has the ability to go away because of what Atris did. Atris must be the true god, right? Gen is a pretender. He's false. And Catherine, because, she was taken away from this place by Atris, must be the chosen wife. Therefore, Catherine, will rule over Riven one day as this semi-divine figure. And Catherine is really, really uncomfortable with the faith and expectations that they have placed in her. She just wants to be at home with their people, and they have put this distance between her. So, like, immediately, we have somebody who has no right to be called a god because the people do not trust or like him, who is forcing that role on himself. And then you have somebody who does not want the power, but it is being thrust on them anyway.
Yeah. This kind of like, when I think about this game in terms of like its colonialism messages, this is also something that feels a little weird to me because it where's the Rivenese people. Like, why doesn't she communicate to them?
Yeah,
they're not God. She's been here for a long time. Like, I understand why they don't simply overtake Gen. Gen has powers that they don't, but it just feels like she could do something about this. She has
not been here for very long. She's only been here for like a couple of months, basically at most. Yeah. They have had,
seems like the kind of thing that she hasn't been here for 30 years, but she could still do something.
Tell them. They don't believe her when she says it. Like there is like a doctrinal conflict between them.
Which I guess that's what I mean when I say like kind of disempowering to the Rivenese. Like they're kind of idiots in this. So there's a little bit of like, this is woke for 1997, but not 2021 woke.
Right.
In terms of that.
Right.
So her trips to the surface have been really disturbing. Like Riven actually used to be one island and it's splitting apart due to the unstable age. And the landscape has been,
despoiled,
clear-cutted and despoiled, dudded with Gen's like steamwork, gross contraptions.
She calls it his self-absorbed constructions. Yeah.
And his Gen's trick is when he did this world, he wrote all of the necessary materials to create new linking books on the island.
Right.
So he could not get totally trapped.
Right. Even if he couldn't get back to Denis, where all of his resources were, he could at least get away as this one fell apart. Right. But of course, he throws a tantrum because he believes that the materials are not pure enough for him to create an actual linking book. Right. When it's a shortcoming of his own. He blames the Rivenese always. Catherine has identified the Starfisher viewer. Seeing that it is put together, they've observed the combination. This is one of the randomized things. My combination is here. Yours will differ, but this is important.
For pulling the plug.
Yeah.
Gen briefly thought he could go after the Myst book, so he started throwing dissidents into the Starfisher to observe what happened if they fell. Pretty evil.
Yeah.
So those people are all just wandering around Earth.
Yup.
I guess. So it sucks that it'd be them.
Yeah.
The Moiety associate that dagger with Catherine. She's the one who wrote all the large daggers into the world while modifying it. And this stands opposed to the Wark, which Gen has taken as his own symbol. So it's, dagger versus whale, the classic conundrum. But the idea of these giant daggers being here, like something she just wrote into the world, is super cool.
Yeah. Catherine puts a lie to one of Gen's belief that you need to have Denis blood in order to write linking books. Atris teaches her how to do this. She, along with Anna, again, who has no Denis blood, they're the ones who wrote the Age of Myst. And Catherine's own style, because she is not like grown up indoctrinated into the ways of doing it, she creates these really surreal worlds that break physics but are consistent. So like one of her first ages was this like torus shaped world, like a donut world, where like there was a waterfall that fell through the middle of it and became rain on the other side. Like so her putting these daggers down is kind of just a thing that she does because she has this approach to the way that she makes these books.
She learned that Gen has created these other links and that the Moiety have acquired a burned half-completed book from them. And her plan was to modify the book to create a new age for the Moiety to kind of help them escape. She wrote the material for the amplifier crystal into the age so she could power the books. And she used a marble dome to power the book on Tay, got that crystal and linked back. All the Moiety were ushered into this new secret age, Tay.
So
this
that's why
escape age.
that's why they can't be caught. Like he's never found where they are because, it's locked behind this, animal pillar door, right?
Yeah. Yep. And after we read this journal, the woman comes in again, and she has a linking book back to Riven and the amplification crystal. And she tries to motion to you, hey, make sure Catherine is safe.
Yes.
Here. And this now allows us to, get the book back so we can capture again.
Yeah. So we have our prison book. We can link back to the animal chamber, and we can go to the 233rd age. Where Gen eagerly takes what he believes is the Denis linking book from you. And this is nerve-wracking. I love their performance in this because he takes it and, this is, he rests on this for a while, flipping through it, looking at the writing. You're like, okay, like, is the king going to figure out that I poisoned his meal? Right. And he's about to touch the linking panel when he realizes, no, hey, you take a bite of this first. He holds it up to you and says, you link, you do this. If you take too long, he'll say like, all right, well, I'll give you time to think about it. I would be, desperately disappointed if there's anything going on here. And he'll put it down and you can summon him back. I believe if you summon him back and then don't touch it, he will kill you.
He does shoot you eventually.
Yes.
You have to do it a couple times. He gets really impatient.
Yeah.
So you have no choice but to do it.
Yep. To imprison yourself.
Imprison yourself. And you see through, in the sunken place, through the little viewport. And you can see that, if at this point you made the mistake of trusting again at any point, you see that you're wrong because he's readying his gun. He thinks he's going to go through here and shoot, but when you touch the panel, you guys switch places.
Yes.
And you can, the idea here is that this was made, he doesn't think it's going to be a one-way trap book at all.
Yeah.
So that's why you switch. There are a bunch of fun, bad endings. If you trap yourself,
you can take him to Tay and then release him.
Yep. And just be like, he's literally like, it's time to get revenge.
Yeah.
Lock and load. Again, just, the Rivenese never fight back. At this point, just one old man with a gun is easily their equal. Or you can send yourself to jail.
Yep.
In Tay, and like a couple rebels find you. And one of them almost lets you out and the other one slaps his hand.
Yeah.
That's really cute. So now he's trapped. This is great. If we go to his writing table where his linking book is there, it doesn't work. He was not going to save the Rivenese.
No.
At this point. Like, he's just a pathological liar. This guy sucks.
Yeah. You can go down into his living quarters. I love this. I love the stuff down here.
This is great.
Not only his weird sink that he built for himself, but there is another Ahmad viewer at the far end, one of these circular cages, that when you power it, there's a woman talking directly. It's a recording of his dead wife, the wife who died giving birth to Atris. And on the wall by his bed, you can see two photos, one of which is the woman from the imager, Keita, and the other is his dad, Atris, for whom Atris is named, and also his bassoon, which his leitmotif is this little bassoon melody. Yeah,
that he's been playing. His bedside table has the combination to the prison, a little device he listens to every night because he's a weird pervert. And we can just really taking a lot of joy in imprisoning his daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
You can read his most recent diary, and he is upset that Catherine linked in, is taken by the rebels, but he's very puzzled to hear that she didn't have a linking book with her.
Yeah.
He can still not understand the idea that other people know how to do this.
Yes. So figures, all right, well, she probably came here accidentally, but she can still be useful, right?
Yes.
His grand goal, what he wants to do, he wants to rebuild the Denis culture. And it doesn't matter what it costs to make that happen. He needs to get back to the city of Denis, which is underground on Earth. That's where Atris is, to get his resources and start writing so he can, just do multi-dimensional exploitation to build things back up. Right.
Yeah.
And he's got really just outright racist views about the mental capabilities of the Rivenese. And just like, oh, the older ones, I should never have told them that I have the ability to write these books. They don't understand, the importance and the reality. I need to get to them as children so they can be perfectly subservient to me as a god.
Yeah. Yep. He says he's disappointed in his large adult son. He's saying he should have never left the boy with Anna. He blames with causing the fall of the Denis. And when he captures Catherine, he's furious because she'll only answer in the Rivenese tongue, which he has not bothered to learn. He wants to remake them in his image, not the other way around.
Yes.
All he really learned was she came here unintentionally.
Right. Touchingly, the entry where he talks about missing Keita, missing his wife, is in a much more wobbly hand, and you can see tear stains on the page. He wishes that, with his pen, which can create worlds, he wishes he could just write her back to life, so they could just run away. Like, I wouldn't need Denis if I had her, but just not the way it works. And the final entry is about the stranger's arrival.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I find this attempt at kind of sympathy for him way too little too late.
Yeah.
In here. They kind of bummed me out when I read this because I was like, man, this like TV tropes pet the dog moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
For him. And it's like, you are comically evil, dude. Like, again, that Lily was reverse gilded a lot.
Yeah.
So we can now go to the prison island and release Catherine because we know the funky rhythms that unlock her. And she gets to the elevator with you, checks to make sure Gen is in the book, and says, go back to the temple and reopen the star fissure. That will signal Atris.
Yes.
And this is the end game. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. We've got Catherine out. Yeah. Like, the game even limits the places you can go.
Yeah. Yeah. We just go and we use that combination now that we have it.
Yeah.
And lower the telescope that we have there down towards the glass until the panel shatters.
And it's funny because you said, when you mentioned, pulling the plug, what happens is a little bit like you pulled the plug on the bathtub and everything starts being sucked into it. Like, it is not a vacuum, necessarily. Like, there's air in there, but it has been deprived what it wants. So it begins like by pulling in the telescope and then everything else is coming in. Atris links into the cage, and Catherine joins us, and we've done it. We've done everything correctly. Gen is captured. The rebels have been safely taken to Tay. And Catherine links out. And Atris links out over the fissure. The book falls in, and so do I. And he says, maybe one day we'll meet again.
It really looks like he's leaving you to be fucked.
Yep.
Like, and just sucked into the thing. Like, some of the the fact that the world was going to fall apart if they opened this, and it was just going to send everybody back to Earth.
That
kind of takes some of the threat.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, isn't this supposed to be a bad thing? Like, but no, it's not.
No.
The only thing you're supposed to be sad about is the animals.
Yes.
Who will get also sucked into Earth, I guess.
So
look out. There's going to be a bunch of flopping whale sharks just like in 1800s Earth.
Yep. They become
ain't so powerful now.
Yeah. You jerk, in the middle of the desert, which is either in the Middle East or in New Mexico, depending on when you read the continuity. Yeah.
And that's how we got Dishonored. When you look up at this kind of cleft in the world as we're floating through this void, we get this monologue from Atris about the ending, just kind of about endings in general and how you'll arrive safely back in your own world.
Yes.
Which I guess we never see. We also have to take that as trust too. Like, this could be a like father, like son scenario.
Yeah, you're just in the void forever. No, you survive. You come back like and Myst 3. Myst 3 star. Myst 3 and 4 star the same character. You continually involve yourself in Atris's affairs.
You can't quit him.
Yeah, Myst 5 takes place after Uru. Atris is still alive. Atris's daughter is an adult at that point. But it stars somebody different because it takes place like 200 years later. Yeah.
And that is Riven.
That is Riven.
Quick note on the fake ending where you don't free Catherine. But you do trap Gen. It's very funny. He's like, you undeniably did this dude a solid, but he's not real happy about it.
Right. Well,
You know?
I guess I'll never know the fate of my wife. Well, let's go then,
Yeah.
I guess.
And if you just pull the plug in general, he's like, great, you did that quickly. And then Gen shows up and shoots him and then shoots you. Very funny. The bad endings in this are very funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, that is Riven. Thank you, Dr. Bois.
Thank you, Dr. Bois. This is still one of my favorite games. This is extremely near and dear to me. I am looking up right now. There are 2 Myst posters above my desk here in my recording room. This series is incredibly meaningful to me. Got to me at a young enough age and has really kind of informed a lot of the kind of like fiction I like and a lot of the ways that I enjoy stories to be told to me in video games. It's hard to come back to this and be completely sure that you're not looking at it through the warm lens of nostalgia. I try my best to kind of evaluate the puzzles and the worlds, dispassionately, but that is impossible to do. There's no such thing as being purely objective. I think that this is a remarkable game that is extremely well put together. And while I do see the shortcomings to it, it is hard also not to see it as a high watermark for a particular kind of game. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree that this is probably, this is a great version of a particular kind of game that just isn't as aligned with my DNA. I didn't come upon it at the right time to have that kind of absolute malleability that you have, like when your favorite things are all formed.
Yeah.
Around the same time. I admire it a lot.
Yeah.
I think it is neat. I didn't come away from it as thirsty for the world and the concepts of it. I like the concept of writing linking books and descriptive books and such, but it doesn't intrigue me to a huge degree, and the idea of, I was reading the synopses of the later games and just the weird linking, surreal places that are inspired by actual, cultures that live in huts, like a lot of the time, is something that I just get a little sick of.
Yeah.
It's like these people are basically, Samoans, but they live in upside down, cages from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And like, they're all kind of like, they don't speak the language and everything. There is a weird element to that feels weird to me. Like it's anti-colonial, but also
engaging in colonial
they
tropes.
have a great view of people.
Yeah.
Of those people. It just kind of feels a little bit limiting to me. But it is really cool. I'm glad I had a chance to finally play it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's widely available for all.
Yeah.
Because, in terms of these things, like it's this genre, this specific kind of like big grand puzzle box game, there aren't very many of these.
No.
Which is part of why I think Outer Wilds hit so hard.
Yep.
Because it's just been a while since this kind of thing happened, and it's these are rare.
Yeah.
It is really valuable when these come along because there just aren't very many of them.
Yeah, and this is the game or the series that launched, just a ton of people into making their own stuff that was informed by it. There's a lot of the things that we like and a lot of the games that we're getting are still informed by this, which is a big thumbs up. This is hugely influential and foundational, and I think still holds up.
Yeah, it holds up better than you might expect, for sure.
Oh yeah, especially
it is it's pretty assured. Like it's a very confident game. Yeah, I dig it. I think that I wish that I know that I'm partly the reason why we haven't done this before this year. I kind of wish that we didn't do it the same year that we did Outer Wilds and Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
And that's a personal thing for me, but it's hard not sometimes to compare things.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a good idea, like things have to stand on their own, but like just in terms of pure, like this would have felt more special to me if we'd done it first or done it like last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah. Or at the very least, if we did them in order of release, like did Riven and then those other two, so saw a little bit of an evolution, that would have, I think, been a bit more advisable. Rather than starting at something more modern with some, kind of modern affordances and then going backward to something that is, inarguably more Baroque.
Yeah, and more foundational and elemental.
Yeah.
To it. Yeah, and again, these are minor quibbles. Like, I like the game.
Yep.
It is good. Next episode. So if you have things to say about Riven, the deadline is April 15th. At Duckfeed.tv/contact. Next episode, which is our premium episode for the month, is about Ratchet and Clank Into the Nexus.
Yep.
Everybody gets the generalities. The full episode is available for patrons at the $5 level if you go to patreon.com/DuckFeed.tv.
Yes. If you have thoughts about our games that we're covering in May, which are Hitman 3, Roller Coaster Tycoon, that is Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic, or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which is the premium episode for that month. The deadline for those, for responses on those is May the 15th. Go to duckfeed.tv/contact. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please write them as separate responses. That does make things easier for us.
Yeah. If you would like to be like Dr. Bois and sponsor an episode, you can still do so, even though we are almost full for 2021. So just know that we're looking at like September and November, and then we're basically full. We'll still book those out in advance. We got to figure that out at some point.
Yeah.
You know, like, do we want to be booking for next February? Like, that feels weird. We're not going to take your money and run, but we just, we're figuring it out. Just know that there are a few slots left. So if you want that, get in soon, because at some point we will be looking at next year.
Yes.
For that, some point relatively soon. You can also leave ratings or reviews on Apple Podcast or wherever podcasts are found. That is very appreciated.
Yeah.
And what should they do until next time?
Listen to other shows. Listen to Orb. Listen to Everything to Guppy. Listen to The Level. We're a whole big network. But until next time, watch out for warks.
Yeah, they're not as cute as they seem.
They look cute when they're young, but you're not ready for when they grow up.
Yeah, you flush them down the toilet.